it's not bulkheaded up. You still have mangrove shorelines, and I was saying there's not a lot of grass up here, but I have found some grass compared to Boynton where there's not a single piece of grass anywhere. You can't find it anywhere. And of course, the grass holds bait, and then predator fish come to eat that bait, so it's a whole cycle. So you really need to have that grass in order to have a good inshore fishery, and we just don't have that inshore Boynton. And we can't, us having a YouTube channel, we can go out there and catch a snook every single day if we want to, but for us, we're constantly switching it up. We're constantly trying to get a variety of fish and make our content a little unique. We're not going to post, 5, 6 snook videos in a row. So we constantly got to switch it up, and it's all dependent on what we catch and how we catch it. So another thing is your inlet here is huge compared to the Boynton Inlet. There's a huge amount of water flow on the incoming and outgoing tides, and that overall the water outflow is a key factor to catching fish. The more clean water that pours in here and then flows out of here, it's just, it makes all the difference in the world. Where we are in Boynton, we have a inlet, but it's not technically a real inlet. It's actually a spillway, right? Technically a spillway. And so if you crash your boat in there, it's not going to be covered by your insurance because it's not a navigable channel. So you're at your own risk when you go through the Boynton Inlet, which is a little dangerous. And we just don't have enough water flowing in and out of Boynton to catch nice fish or have good fish move into our area. So that's another reason as well. And then here, as well as fishing the rocks by the inlet, you guys have the big jetties on the north and the south side, and it just makes for great fishing. Fish stack up along the edges, the hole in the wall. During the summertime, epic snook fishing here. I've never seen anything like it anywhere else. Boynton, the fish do spawn there, but you can't go out there, during the incoming and outgoing tides and consistently catch huge fish over 40 inches. Just again, it's just what you guys have here to offer is huge. Even this bridge right here, the bridge to the south, the Stuart Causeway, there are so many fish there, it's insane. Oh, there goes my stuff. Sorry about that. There's such a variety of fish at the Stuart Causeway. I'm still learning how to fish there, but I've caught at least 2 dozen different types of species at the Stuart Causeway in the last 2 months. Even my PB black drums just recently. So those are just a couple of the things why we love Stuart so much, but also the deep sea fishing is so much better than Boynton as well. In Boynton, where I live, we fished Boynton for many, many years, deep sea fishing. We used to keep our boat at a yacht center, so we just go in and out of Boynton. But for us, we go half a mile out, and it's 50 feet deep. And then you go 3 miles out, it's 300 feet deep, or 500 feet deep, sorry. And it just drops off like stone where we are in Boynton. So that makes for great wahoo fishing. Ooh.
Take that second mic off.
This one?
Yeah.
Or turn it off?
Keep that one on.
Oh, sorry. This, turn off this one. Okay. Sorry about that. Alright, so like I said, Boynton it completely drops off. So on the flat summer days there, it's a parking lot offshore. All the kayak fishermen, all the party boats, everybody can get offshore and fish super close. And it's super pressured. All the deep sea charter, the party boats go out every day, twice a day, and they just get all the fish on our reefs in Boynton. And like I said, there we have occasional good wahoo fishing during the new moon, full moons. Last month was epic. People were catching a ton of wahoo there. Also, tuna fishing is good there. But for us personally, we just feel like Boynton offshore, fishing out of Boynton, deep sea fishing is like one of the worst places to fish, period, in our opinion. And that's one of the main factors, because that ledge drops off so fast. Here, you go out 10 miles, and it's only 150 feet deep. You have a huge ledge where fish hold right here close to shore. So you have piles of bait at the bull shark barge, at the sand pile, all those local spots. As soon as you go out the inlet, you just see a pile of boats somewhere. That's where they're all all catching bait. We don't get to do that in Boynton. It's rare that we get piles of bait like that. Sometimes we do find them. If we get shore, we'll find them. But it's just not consistent like it is here in Stuart. And now we're coming to the time of the year where tons of bait is going to move through this area. And for instance, like last year, we caught bait every day on Sabikis and with my cast net, for 3 months straight during the summer months. And they're starting to show up now. 2 weeks ago, we were offshore fishing and we caught huge cigar minnows and huge sardines at the bull shark barge. So it's an amazing place. And like I said, that huge ledge is a huge advantage up here because it holds fish and the fish will stay here for days. They're not just going to fly by like they do in Boynton. A huge pack of sailfish will be migrating. They might hang out in Boynton for a day and then they're gone. Here, like I said, you got the ledge and that's going to hold fish for days, for weeks, or for however long they want to stay. So you have a more opportunity to go after these fish. Where in Boynton, if people tell us there's a wahoo bite, the next day we go out there, they might be gone. So it's just very hit or miss in Boynton. And we've had many days out there where we don't catch any fish or we don't get any bites, and we're trolling, spunk trolling or drifting with the best live goggle eyes ever, and we can't buy a bite. So we've had many days like that, and we can't afford to really go out there and not catch fish and not make a video because that's our job. So coming up here to Stuart, it almost literally guarantees us a video. I wouldn't say I'm the best fisherman or best lady angler in the world by any means, but we're still learning to this very day, like I always say. But coming up here to Boynton, coming up here to Stuart, we're more than likely guaranteed a good video. Even if it's a slow day offshore fishing, we'll still put together a video catching, whatever snapper group or whatever it is that's biting. So that really is another reason why we love Stuart so much, is because we will catch fish here. And I think the last 100 trips up here, maybe 2 of those trips we really didn't make a real video. So, that just goes to show you that even though we're newbies to the Stuart area, especially offshore fishing, if we can go out there and basically make a video 98% of the time, that's really good fishing, especially compared to Boynton. I always keep saying that because Boynton is my home base, and that's where we put many, many hours on the water, both inshore and offshore. And also Stuart is one of the only places where you can literally go offshore, catch a sailfish in 180 feet water, and then come back inshore and catch a huge lumper snook in the inlet. Where else are you going to do that? So you're really blessed up here and lucky to have the fishery that you do. And I know, people, the old school folks back in the day will tell you how much more epic it was years ago. But for us, it's very awesome. We love it. So I will now just go basically talk to you guys about what we did inshore fishing today and tell you exactly how we caught all these awesome fish. And then, of course, if you guys have any questions as I'm talking, just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. So today, like I said, we were fishing with the general manager, Alec, and we had an epic day inshore fishing. Picked him up right here at the Snook Nook dock at 6:30, and he had an assortment of bait for us today. We had fiddler crabs, which is an amazing inshore bait, and we never get to fish with those, so I was excited. Fiddler crabs, a bunch of live shrimp, and then we also had 50 live croakers. And if you know anything about croakers is like the ultimate inshore bait, particularly for snook. Basically, there's a saying that goes 1 croaker equals 1 snook. So that bait is just prime to use this time of the year and throughout the year as well. So we had all of those baits of quite a variety, and then we headed right to the Stuart Causeway, and we started fishing there on basically the end of the incoming tide. We fished basically almost through 2 tides today, and we were fishing croakers. We were fishing croakers on the big blocks that are there, or that hold the supports the bridge, and we were pitching them, free-lining croakers on 80-pound leader. So we were using like a 3 to 4 foot leader, 80 pound, and you got to use that for the bridge because they're going to break you off in 2 seconds. And we were tying a loop knot to a 7 or an 8 knot inline muskeg circle hook, and we were rigging the live croaker either shoulders, like up through the top of the shoulders, and this will be in an upcoming video, by the way, but through the shoulders or through the nose, And then sometimes we've even rigged them through the tail to get them to swim away from us. When you rig them through the, basically almost through the anal fin, but a little up into the meat, that tension is going to force that fish to swim down and swim away from you. So a lot of times we were doing that in order to get them to go underneath the bridge. So immediately, Alec lost a huge fish this morning, a huge snook. 5 minutes later, I hooked him to a snook, pulled him out of the bridge, and sure enough, it was a keeper. It was a 29-inch slot. So that was my first fish of the day, keeper's fish in the boat. And then immediately after that, Alec hooks an overslot fish, like 33 inches, and we get that fish to the boat. So it was an epic snook fishing bite this morning. And then we kind of bounced around from piling to piling, trying to find the fish that we're interested in eating. We had a couple more bites, but nothing too crazy. And then we headed to the main part of the bridge, Stuart Causeway. If you guys watch my videos, you'll see that we actually fish those fenders, the main channel where boats go in and out, cruising traffic go in and out of. And we'll fish those edges, and you're just gonna pitch. But what I love to do is the shrimp on the jig. If you watch my recent videos, that's like my favorite wintertime bait to use. You will not believe what a shrimp on a jig will catch. And I know a lot of people, you have to weed through those catfish sometimes. You gotta weed through those small mangrove snappers or whatever's pecking at your bait. Today we had those puffer fish, those little toadfish eating at our bait. But once you are able to work your bait, picking away at those little things, you'll be surprised. I've hooked 100-pound tarpon on the tiniest little shrimp on a jig. So basically match the size of your jig to the current and how deep you're fishing. But I think it was fishing just about a quarter ounce today, maybe 1/16 to 1/32, just depending on what the tide was doing. And then I was pinching off the tail of the shrimp and then just rigging the shrimp, taking the hook and rigging it through the meat, and then taking the point of the hook and going up through the top of the shrimp, and then just pinching it as close as possible to the structure, close as possible to the fenders, anywhere where you see pilings, the structure going down to the bottom. Let it hit the bottom, and you can bounce it off the bottom if you want to. I like to do that a lot as well. And Alec caught one of the biggest sheepshead I've seen in a very long time. It was like 18 to 19 inches long, so it's a nice fish. And then we caught a couple more sheepshead doing the same exact method. And I also said we were using fiddler crabs, which I don't get to use a lot, but Alec told us how to rig those today as well, which I learned something, because again, I don't get to fish fiddlers hardly ever, and you rig them through, it's kind of hard to explain, but it is going to be in some future videos of ours, and you rig it through the joints between the two legs of the crab, and then you slowly, basically weave that hook up through the top of the crab's shell, and you got to be really careful, because they're so tiny that you'll break their entire body if you're not careful. You got to just take your time with it. So fiddlers, we were catching big sheepshead on those as well. And then as that tide switched at like 8:30, it switched and it was an outgoing tide. So we decided to make our way to the 10-cent bridge, to the 10-cent bridge, and we headed over there, and it was pretty quiet. Not a whole lot of action over there. We fished there for quite a while, just hitting off the pilings of the different parts of the bridge, looking for a fish to eat. And we didn't get anyone to play with us. And then we started working some of the docks on the way back down towards Hell's Gate. Fished Hell's Gate for a while as well, which is the point over there. I'm not 100% sure how to explain where that is, but if you're familiar with Hell's Gate, it's that point, right, like half a mile before you get to the 10-cent bridge. So that did not produce as well, and it was just a weird tide today. We didn't have a lot of water moving. A lot of the times the water's ripping out of here, both incoming and outgoing tides. And in my past experience, we always catch a ton of fish when the water's really ripping to the point where it's hard to even hold your bait on the ground, on the bottom, because it's just getting picked up by the current. So today was a really weird current, and I just think I had the bite off. So probably the fish will bite tonight. So we did that, and then worked that area for a couple hours with no luck. Then we headed over to Sailfish Flats on the opposite side, kind of by the inlet over there where those mangrove islands are and the shorelines there. And we always see boats fishing there, so that was a new area for us to explore as well. Pitching the croakers down there, the shrimp, the fiddler crabs, not a lot of luck. And then we basically ended our day coming back to the Stuart Causeway, and we caught a ton of sheepshead. I think there's maybe a dozen sheepshead in my cooler right now. They were just on fire today. and it was all quality sheep's head. And it's interesting because some days we'll come out here and we'll catch, keeper sheep's head, but nothing too crazy of size. But today was all nice fish, so it's just interesting to see how that works. Did not catch one jack crevalle, which is interesting. I always like take notes of that in my head because when you don't catch jacks, it's just weird because jacks are like the number one biggest population of fish here, and they're going to eat your crabs and your shrimp and everything you pass by them. So that was really weird. But besides that, we caught those 2 snook in the morning. I also forgot to mention Alec caught a really big bluefish when we were fishing the docks on the other side. That was the only fish we caught over there. And of course they have the water drainage going on right now, the fresh water spilling. So that, I feel like that affected the bite somewhat. But it is what it is. When they're draining the water, we us personally, we like to run north and get the heck out of here, get away from all that water, because that fresh water really messes with the salinity, really messes with the fish, and just overall it's not good. Fresh water shouldn't be in our salt water, so it's overall just a bad thing. But we wanted to hit it anyways and explore that area with the discharges while it was happening. So, but overall it was a great day. And some people might consider that a slow day, but we had action. We caught big fish. We caught dinner, plenty of dinner. I learned a few things, and that's the whole thing with fishing is that you're always going to be learning from years on, forever. You're always going to be learning. To this very day, I've been fishing full time now for 6 years, and every day I'm out there, I swear I learn something new. It's amazing what you just mentally learn. It's really cool. And then as far as, learning how fish behave and stuff, that's all, again, water time. Figuring out how fish want the bait presented, or how snook want that top water presented. And every day is a different day. I'll go there and I'll go right here by the hole in the wall. I remember last year I was catching pilchards there, like right on the shoreline. For 2 days straight I caught pilchards, and then we were coming back like 2 days later. I'm like so excited to catch pilchards for offshore. We went over there and I couldn't find a single pilchard, and I was so bummed because I love my bait. If you watch my videos, I'm obsessed with catching bait. So the more bait, the better. That's how I like to think of it. So I like a blacked out well, and the more, like I said, the more the better. I'm just super excited about bait. So it was great when we had 3 different kinds of varieties of bait today to use. And as far as fishing here, it's just a lot of experience, a lot of time on the water. I'm constantly trying different things. A lot of times Brian and I, when you have 4 people on the boat, it's easier to explore and fish different depths at the same time. So, at the Stuart Causeway, Brian might put out a shrimp on a popping cork and have it on the surface and kind of let it drift back. And then I will put a shrimp all the way down to the bottom and fish the bottom structure. And then sometimes we'll fish the top waters on the surface to see if fish want action. So you're fishing different depths the whole entire time, and then once you figure out you're getting bites at one depth or what's working, then everybody should switch to that until you figure out what the fish want. Because again, I can't repeat this enough, every day is a different day. You might think you have it down pat and this is how the fish want it, this is what they want, and go there same exact tide the next day and do the same exact thing, and those fish won't eat. So there's so many factors that go into fishing, and I pay a lot of attention to the minor and major moon phases, and I'm not really sure what it does to the fish, but you can look at those on a lot of apps, like Fish Angler app, for instance, is one where I will actually go on there and see what time the minor and the major moon phases are. And for us, both inshore and offshore fishing, we've come to realize that the minor moon phase, at the top of the minor moon phase, that usually produces catches, or we'll usually get nice fish for whatever reason. The minor only lasts an hour usually. The major is about a 2-hour window, and they're all different times throughout usually twice a day for the minor and the major, different times of the day depending on tides and stuff. So I always pay attention to that. Even before I go fishing, I look at the minor and the major moon phases. So I know where I want to be at and where I want to fish during that time, and not waste any time running my boat during the minor and major moon phases. I want to be fishing. So as far as that goes, also just, well, there's a lot of things that go into it, but for us, even the full moon, for instance, the full moon is like a big no-no for us offshore fishing. Like we refuse to go fishing on a full moon offshore. The fish feed at night at the full moon, even with inshore. The same thing with the fish inshore. When you have a bright, bright moon and it's full, we will not go anymore. We've done it so many times over the years, and we've learned our lesson over and over again. We used to fish tournaments too quite frequently, like 3 or 4 years ago. I fished dozens of tournaments, a lot of them on the full moons, and we don't catch crap. For whatever reason, the full moon just shuts off the bite during the day. So that's a big rule of ours now. It's like we're not going inshore or offshore fishing on the full moon, other than if it's for wahoo. Wahoo, that's a different story. We've caught plenty of wahoo on the day of the full moon. If it's calm enough, we'll go for wahoo. But besides that, we will not fish. So there's just a couple, tidbits right there that so many things come into play when it comes to lining up and catching fish and getting them to the boat. So basically as far as how today went, it was amazing, had a blast, learned a lot from Alec, and I'm sure Alec probably learned a couple things from us. And that video is going to be coming out later next week, like I said, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not sure which day yet. But I want to go ahead and kind of open it up to questions. If you guys have any specific questions on whatever fish, or you want me to talk about a certain species or whatever, I'm more than happy to. So go ahead and raise your hand if you got a question. No questions? No questions. All right.
I have a question.
What's up? Question.
How can these guys catch some lunker snook going into the summer?
Say it again.
How can they catch some lunker snook going into the summer?
How can we catch lunker snook going into the summer is the question Brian just read to me from online, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, catching lunker fish in the summer is actually way easier than a lot of people might think. Of course, a lot of charter captains around here can put you on fish, but if you want to go out there and catch your own, you can definitely do that. Right now, the fish are starting to stage. The snook are starting, it's basically pre-spawn. So the fish, all the big snook and all the healthy, huge females are moving out of the river, particularly up here, moving out of the river and heading their way to the inlet. And they're going to be spawning. They're going to be stacking up. A great spot is a hole in the wall, going all the way out to the inlet, and also on the north jetty there. There's a spot over there where you'll always see boats parked. No matter what day I'm fishing, there's always boats parked over there. And it's a great spot as well, where everybody's docks start on the north side of the inlet. And they're going to stack up in there, also on the rocks. As soon as you go out the inlet, the rocks on both the north and south jetty there hold tons of fish as well. And they're going to be huge. There's going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of them. It's just epic fishing. And like I said, the croakers, of course, is going to be your best bet for catching a monster snook. And if you can't get those, of course, pilchards, red fins, sardines, whatever local bait is here, you can just run offshore to the barge, catch bait, come right back in, and set up for snook. And we have had stellar days out here where it's just snook after snook after snook. They're hungry, they're spawning, and it's really cool because snook, if you didn't know, snook are actually hermaphrodites. Is this come on plugged? I just realized it's really plugged. Alec, is it working?
Yes.
Okay.
Still in the speaker.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Not the one that I have.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So during, I just lost my train of thought.
Snooks are stacked up on
Snook.
Yeah, I know. But,
thousands of them are stacked up at the jetty.
yes. So there's thousands stacked up. But I know what I was gonna say. If you didn't know, snook are actually hermaphrodites. So when they are born male. And then, for whatever reason, when they come to sexual maturity, some of them turn to female, which is really, really cool. And the males don't get very big. They're basically very small snook. They're basically upper slot size usually. So we'll be fishing the inlet, we'll catch, a 40, and then we'll catch a 41, and then a 38, and then all of a sudden you'll catch like a 22, and that's a male over there, and they're all spawning together. So it's interesting. The males are the smaller fish, and the females are just the huge, healthy pigs that just look like dinosaurs when they come up because they're so huge. And the hole in the wall is a a great spot that we always is usually our go-to for summertime snook fishing. That's where we like to set up. And even after a long day offshore, you know, I remember we did it last summer. We caught a huge sailfish and a bunch of mahi. We found a big floating log. We came right back inside with the leftover bait we had, set up right at the hole in the wall, and we just drifted. We didn't anchor anything, just drifted down, put out baits, and hooked a huge, I think it was a 43 incher. It was so huge that it actually broke our landing net. Went to lift the fish and it broke. So, you know, it's amazing fishing. Even in the heat of the summer, on the hottest days, the fish are going to be there and they're going to be hungry. And you'll see all the charter guys over there too, so they'll kind of give you an idea of where to set up. But they usually stack right along that, right where the ledge drops down, right at the hole in the wall. And you'll see it on your depth finder. And depth finders are super important as well, because a lot of times you'll even mark all these fish on the bottom. And you can even snorkel. A lot of people snorkel that area, and I've seen epic footage, underwater footage of just, again, thousands and thousands of snook. I've never done it myself, but I would love to one day. It's incredible fishery here. And of course, when you catch and release snook in the summertime, just take extra good care of them, because they're spawning and also making fish for our future generation and our future kids to catch. So I always make sure you hold those fish correctly, get them right back in the water quickly, and sometimes it will get shark too. I've had a couple fish shark right at the boat. It's really sad when you see 20, 25-pound snook shark by a spinner shark or a bull shark. So you try to reel them in as fast as you can too. So that's how you would catch lunker snook at the inlet. Is there any more questions, Brian?
What are some of your questions?
Alec.
Any tips on pompano fishing?
Say again.
Any tips on pompano fishing?
Any tips on pompano fishing? So I am not an expert pompano fisherman by any means. The number one guy here is Stuart. I'm sure you know him, and he recently did a seminar here as well. So for pompano fishing, for me, a lot of times, we're on a boat. We don't do a whole lot of land fishing or beach fishing, but we are starting to get into beach fishing. And for us, we like the inlet here to kind of drift through the inlet, both on the incoming and the outgoing tides. And sometimes we'll get some intel from like the local guys and the commercial guys that will tell you, they're catching pompano or the pompano are running, and that's kind of how I've had success in the past. They'll tell us they're running, and we'll go and we'll run over there. And I always carry goofy jigs on the boat. I always have them in my tackle box throughout the year. Everything eats a goofy jig, not just pompano. And I love to use a goofy jig that's pink or either chartreuse if I don't have pink. And then I'll use a little trailer hook, and usually that's white with a little bit of mylar on there. And then I usually tie a big loop knot, like 3 or 4 inches long. And then you have both the jig and the trailer hook facing the opposite way of each other. And as you jig that off the bottom, that little trailer hook is sliding back and forth. And for whatever reason, the pompano love to eat that. And we will just work the area until we start getting bites. We did this video like 6 weeks ago where we fished the inlet for 6 hours, and we had a whole bunch of bites. I mean, we got a total of like 11 keeper pompano in the boat, but it was hard work. Like, we were just constantly, the fish are running. The fish are moving. They're not standing in one place, especially the pompano. They're moving in schools up and down the inlet, and they're all in different areas, and you just got to constantly keep moving your boat and drifting different areas until you find the fish. And then all of a sudden, we'll get 2 bites all of a sudden, and then we'll get another bite. And then after 2-3 minutes, they shut off, and the pompano moved on. And then you got to find them again. So pompano fishing, again, it's all about water time. The goofy jigs, switch up your colors, see what works. But usually, like I said, my go-to is pink and chartreuse with a white trailer, or vice versa, a pink trailer. And that's how I'll fish them. Also, of course, the pompano rigs, like the Captain Paul Sperco makes, those are great. And I see a lot of people do this at the inlet. We haven't had too much luck doing this, but you can anchor, and of course you can cast around while you're anchored with the goofy jig and bounce it off the bottom. But you can also put out those pompano rigs, with the spider weights, and put those down in the sand, and they'll just sit there. And the key with those pompano rigs is that you don't want it bouncing in the sand. You really want that weight laying flat, and that's going to present the bait to the pompano better. And if that weight's bouncing and moving those baits up and down, and it's just, they're not going to eat it for whatever reason. They don't like it like that. They want it flat and just not moving. And they will come up and see that little float, and usually they'll eat that. And we love the fish bites. All the fish bites work, of course. You can even put a shrimp on there, and of course you can use the little sand fleas from here as well. That's what we did last time we came pompano fishing. You put a bleached sand flea on there, and then a piece of a fish bite, and that's how we were catching the pompano. So, but the pompano fishing is a lot of fun, and even right here at the Stuart Causeway, I've caught quite a few lately. Not this particular trip, but last week we caught like 3 or 4 keeper pompano. And it was just on my shrimp and a jig, like right there, right underneath the packs of the bridge. So that goes to show you too that the schools of pompano are moving all the way north to the Stuart Causeway, moving in and out of that area. And I'm sure they even go further past this bridge. So it was really cool to learn because that was like a brand new thing for me. And I even caught bonefish at that bridge as well, which I know bonefish can be caught here, but it was really cool to catch bonefish in that dirty water, way up inside and not just at the inlet. We caught a bunch of bonefish at the inlet last year, but that was like crystal clear water. And lately we just haven't had great water, so it was cool to catch a bonefish in like the dirty inshore water. There's just so much fish up here; it's insane. Any other questions? Yes.
Tell us a whole lot about triple tail in the river.
I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Triple tail in the river. I used to tell you guys all about it. Well, in all my videos too, like all this stuff is in there as well, but I will, of course, talk about it right now as well. But if you have to future reference anything, just type like Darcizzle Triple Tail on Google or YouTube and that'll pop up. So I'm learning the triple tail fishery here. From what I know, triple tail can be caught year-round around here. And there's one guy in particular, like Cap 22 Charters, he catches them quite a bit. I follow all the local charter captains around here, and he's like, that's his thing. He loves to catch triple tail. But for me, I just love, again, shrimp on a jig. Usually I'm using like a yellow snapper jig, those little tiny hooks, either a 16th or 132. And then, like I said before, pitching off the tail. If it's a big shrimp, I'll actually rip them in half and then just use the front half of the body or the tail section. And then I'm pitching off the tail, running the hook through the meat and then up through the top of the shell, and it really holds in place. And I try to get the hook to come out where the actual, not the tail portion of the body, but like the head portion is a little bit of a harder shell there. So if I can get the hook through that point, through the top of the upper, like the head cavity, I guess, because there's 2 separate pieces, there's like the tail and the head. So I like to get it up to the head, and I'll hold it longer. And then I just fish everything starting from, I would say like a mile. So you just start at the inlet. Any of the crab traps at the inlet, any of the pilings, I've heard people catching them on the pilings, like the docks right by the inlet. When the clean water is there, these fish move in and out. I'm not sure why they do that, but triple tails love to hang out on structures. So for whatever reason, they love Stuart. And once I heard about that a year or 2 ago, I was determined to catch my own triple tail. And it's really fun chasing these fish. And for some reason, it just gets me super, super excited. So Brian will usually drive. It's kind of, you've got to have somebody driving to get up close, especially if you don't have a trolling motor. And then we'll just drive from spot to spot. So from crab buoy to piling to dock to anywhere where I see a lot of growth on something that could hold a triple tail. Even I've caught triple tail on things that look brand new in the water. So really just whatever that triple tail swims by or comes across, we usually hang out on it. And a lot of the times like they'll float sideways or they'll look dead. Sometimes you can see them, sometimes you can't see them. So it's all about just fishing that spot. And as far as depth goes, I've been catching triple tail in between like 5 and 12 feet deep.
Back up a little bit.
But
Brian's mic is interfering.
Brian, back up. It's you.
Me?
Yeah.
Just
It's
like
the thing.
Just a foot,
It's
Brian.
making it scream.
Just a foot, Brian.
I just moved over a little bit. Okay. But I've been catching triple tail in between 5 to 12 feet deep about is usually where I'm fishing. And again, like just if you have the time, you have to hit every piling and crab buoy that you can. because you never know which one can be holding a monster fish. And I know there's 20-pounders around here. My biggest ever is 8 pounds around here, which is like an average fish. But I would love to catch a huge 20-pounder, which that's a huge fish for around here. And like I know the catch 22 guy, he's again more of an expert at this than I am. But he like regularly catches like I think between 100 and 300 a year. So they're here, and it's all about putting in the time to catch those fish. You know, just a few fish for them, you're gonna catch them. And again, starting at the inlet, I even heard from a local kid here like 3 weeks ago. His buddy caught one on a buoy when they were fishing for redfish at the flats over there at the inlet. He just was passing by a buoy and saw a huge triple tail, and it was 22 pounds at the bottom. So again, like if you fish for them, you're gonna catch them. And I'm still learning, so I'm not 100% an expert, so I can't tell you like exact like when they're gonna be thick in here, when they're not. I'm still figuring it out. And as far as water temperature goes, it seems like I've been catching them anywhere, in between 65 to 75 degree water. So it's really just, some days I'll go out there and I'll catch like 5 shorts, and I won't catch any keepers. And then one day we'll try it for an hour and we'll catch 2 keepers. So it's just, every day's a different day. We gotta try it. That's all I gotta say about that. It's just putting in that time. It gets to be kind of boring, I guess, for the driver, because you're just driving from spot to spot to spot. And piling to piling to piling, and if you don't catch any fish after like 10 spots, I think it's boring quick. So, so sometimes we'll switch it up, and like I'll drive, and then he'll pitch at it, and I just spend like 5-10 minutes, depending on if I'm getting bites there, have that buoy or that piling, and we get a lot of bycatch too. We caught a lot of nice sheepshead doing that, margates, pompano, a lot of triple tail. Triple tail is the main thing, but of course you're gonna get bycatch too. So you just never know. All kinds of fish like that hang out on the islands. And then really, as far as current goes, I haven't really noticed the difference. Like if it's incoming or outgoing, I seem to catch the fish. Even if it's slack, I catch them. So I don't really think current has too much of an effect on them. I think just as soon as if you get that bait in front of their nose, they're dumb. They're gonna eat it. And then the last triple tail I filleted, it actually had a mantis shrimp in its belly, which was like really cool. I've never seen that before. And I opened up the bellies of a lot of fish just so I could see what they're eating. But it was a big mantis shrimp. It was like this big, and I've never seen one in person dead or alive. So that was really cool to see. So yeah, that's how you would catch triple tail. Any other questions? Yes.
As far as bottom fishing goes, do you personally always use the long leaders, or do you change it up?
Say the end part again.
Do you always use the long leaders, or do you switch it up?
Okay. So he asked, as far as bottom fishing goes, do I always use the long leaders, or do we constantly switch it up? And that's a great question. So for me, a lot of times what I'm doing bottom fishing is I'm fishing for big mutton snapper. Like that's one of my favorite bottom fish to catch. I don't know how to catch grouper yet. I'm still learning. I'll admit that right away. I know there's grouper here, and I've yet to catch keeper grouper here, so I focus on the snapper. So that's why I fish the long leader. Mutton snappers are very smart fish. They don't want to see that big weight, that big bank sinker you send down there. If it's bouncing up and down the bottom, they're very, very smart. Like out of all the snapper species, they're one of the smartest, and they're up there with mangrove snapper. So you want that leader and you want your hook and your bait as far away from that hook as you can. So that's why I like to set up that long leader all the time. And with a live bait, it's going to be best because a live bait's going to be doing its own action down there, and it's going to be getting itself far away from that weight. And usually that mutton snapper focuses in on that bait and just goes after it and tears it up. And I just love the way they hit, and I love the way they fight, and it's a lot of fun. But I also, so when I go bottom fishing, like on our boat, like I'm always using a long leader typically, but we have been starting to use like a chicken rig. A chicken rig is also a great bottom fishing rig, and where you can buy those pre-rigged for here, or you can make your own dropper loops. Like 2 to 3 hooks is usually good, J hooks, and then you're gonna have a big bank sinker on the bottom, and you can push your bank sinker, and you can change the size of it depending on the current and the depth that you're fishing. But those are very productive as well. If you know, like Captain Pat of Dave Anchor Charters up here, he uses them on a regular basis and catches all kinds of keeper fish. Big triggerfish, lane snapper, mangrove snapper. He's even caught grouper on them. Like I know the chicken rigs work, and that's a really effective method of fishing. right down the bottom. It has those weights sticking up. Awesome. That's awesome. Stay right all day. Oh, what time is it now?
Time out.
Dang it.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. No problem.